Good evening. My name is Christopher Goodall. I hate pictures and videos, which is part of the reason why I've been putting this off for so long. But I have been backed into a corner and I am without really any options. I am left with prayer and this option right here. So here we go. I am 34 years old. I reside, or I used to reside, in Queens, New York, Cambria Heights specifically. I'm adopted. When I was 12, I found out that I was abandoned. I was left in a trash can as an infant. And yeah, adopted. So that's where we're starting. I'm a game head, an anime head, weeb, as they would say. So that's what I spent most of my time doing if I wasn't cutting school. Yeah, I dropped out of high school, 11th grade. I barely went. I ended up joining a program called Youth Build, where I got my GED. I was about 22 when this happened. I graduated and I left this program with the Director's Award, the highest award you can get for this program. Let's see. Upon graduation, I came back to volunteer and was hired shortly after. I was a construction trainer. My teacher name, what the kids called me, Mr. G. After this program, got funding cut by the government. I worked for an after-school program called SASF, Sports and Arts something or another, where I was an activity specialist. Yes, my teeth are fucked up. I was hoping my mustache was going to hide, my fucked up teeth, but no, it's not good enough. But yeah, I was an activity specialist. I got promoted to be an assistant director for the program. I did that for about a year, and that was part-time. Because of the travel, I ended up quitting because I was traveling literally about 4.5 to almost 5 hours a day, using public transportation because I don't have a car. I found myself kind of bouncing between odd jobs like security, and I did overnight stock at the Disney store at Times Square, and then I jumped into security. This will all become relevant very soon, but let me talk about my current situation. I am homeless. I am unemployed. And I have a current family court case coming up against the 3 people that were living in the house with me. My younger brother and sister, both twins, Donald and Dominic Goodall, and my adopted mother, Cora Goodall. Her maiden name is Wiggins. And they have all filed an order of protection against me. And let me get the charges for you guys. Hold on. So this is what I'm being charged with in family court, and cannot return home until this is rectified in court. The following respondent committed the following family offenses against me and or my children, which may constitute assault, attempted assault, disorderly conduct, harassment, menacing, other, reckless endangerment, stalking, aggravated harassment, criminal mischief, sexual abuse, sexual misconduct, forcible touching, obstruction of breathing, strangulation, identity theft, grand larceny, coercion, and or dissemination of intimate images. I have no record. I have a clean slate, and I worked many jobs with either youth or in the security field, and somehow within the last 2 months or so I have a Law and Order rap sheet based on lies and slander. This all started when this all started when, let's just say, a little birdie, which I'll get back into that later, told me the current house I was living with was under my name. My name was on the deed. It was my house. I brought this up to my family. And what they decided to do was have a family meeting. And in this family meeting, it got heated when I basically decided to say, all right, forget all of this. Let's just see the deed. And they decided 4 people, my older sister, who I believe is the kind of ringleader behind all of this, Renelda Veronica Goodall, my mother, my younger brother or sister. They formed a circle around me and were yelling and shouting in my face. So I also want to say this. I have never been in a fight in my life up until about 3 to 4 months ago, and I'll get into that after this. Upon all the screaming and yelling in my face, to remove myself from the situation, I decided to walk through 2 of my family members, one of which was my older sister, and they took this opportunity to call the police and say that I was being violent. This isn't the first time they've done this. I'll get into a couple of the stories of when they've done this before. But yes, they called the cops, and because it was all 4 of them versus just me and my story and me being a man, they didn't hear me out. They cuffed me, put me in the back of an ambulance, and had me committed for an entire month. I was in the psych ward for an entire month for saying the house was in my name, and they told me in there that if I continue to say that the house is in my name, that they will keep me indefinitely. Another time is, I'm going to back up. This is about a couple years before. I had certain members of my family stealing items from my room, going through my things, and dragging my skeletons out the closet. I will come back to that. Another time they called the cops on me was when I was confronting my older brother, Kenny Goodall. I think he's like 40 or 50 years old, about abusing my cat, which he admitted to doing. This was one of the first times the filter had fallen off, and I said exactly what was on my mind. And no one could stop me. So, as I proceeded to tell this man off, and I said some not so nice things, not exactly threatening any kind of violence, but I know what to say to push people's buttons, right? I had this grown man of 50 years old-ish in tears, to the point where they again used this as an opportunity to call the police on me under the guise of I'm being violent and or aggressive. Well, let's go to the skeletons in the closet. I had a group of friends. I'll say my second family who used to live around the corner from me, who then moved to Long Island, like Elmont, which is about a 2-mile walk away. They used to live around me. My friend Daryl Bowman, who I used to consider a brother, I've known for about 20 years. I gave him the password for my Xbox Live account so we can game share. He took the opportunity to use this password to log into my OneDrive account and snoop through my computer and found essentially my spank bank. I didn't really carry porn like on my computer. I usually just had a bunch of images. Yes, I was addicted to porn. I smoked, drank excessively, mostly smoked. I drank excessively socially, but I'm not perfect is what I'm getting at. So instead of him telling me that he had a problem with me or anything that I've done to him personally, he goes through my things and he finds some images that were not so flattering. I have no proof that he did such a thing until I got circumstantial proof later. Let's just say a little birdie told me what he had done. One day this was right before the pandemic, I went over to his house and I had, we smoked. We used to smoke together, play games together and all kinds of stuff for years. So we smoked, and I believe I had some kind of download, epiphany, a bad trip. I don't know what you want to call it, but that day, especially since I was on like a tolerance break for about a month or two, it really hit me that day. After I smoked with a bong. After I took my hit, I felt like I was stuck in time for 1,000 years. I was stuck there for so long, I forgot who I was, how I got to where I was. I didn't know anything. I was just like, what is going on here? Until slowly it started coming back to me. And I told him, I'm back. I said it maybe over 20 times. I'm sure it kind of disturbed him a bit, but that turned into a blind anger or rage, have you. I felt like I knew exactly what he had done without any proof. And what he had done was invade my privacy, and I believe was going to, or had done it already, but spread these images behind my back to my closest friends and or family to use that against me. I broke out in a full body sweat. My skin turned a shade of red. My heart was pumping furiously. I got a little bigger. He had to help me off the floor, and my intention was to get on my electric bike and go as far away from that house as possible because of the things I was thinking about doing in there, which were killing him and his entire family. I thought about taking the mother hostage. I was thinking of all kinds of different things so that I can kill him and everyone that he knew in that house, including the repairman that was there that day, because I didn't want any witnesses. This was such a traumatic event for me. Like, I took a shower, my wife beat her on. I came out the shower, I dried off, and I went to his brother Adam's room. And I laid on his bed. I sweated again. I left like a sweat body print on the bed. He came into the room and he asked me if I was okay. And him asking me if I was okay had me so disgusted. I jumped from the bed to the middle of the room where there was a trash can waiting and projectile vomited right into it. I told him, go get me some ice. And it was that amount of time where I was like, a lawyer's not going to be able to rectify the situation because I have no proof. And I was, in that time he took to go get the ice and some water, was the time it took to basically save his life. I ended up passing out, and from this situation, I believe I developed a split personality. After I passed out and woke up, I was fine and I didn't even think about the situation. There are other things that lead me to believe that this might have caused, what is it called? Borderline personality disorder? No. Yeah, borderline personality disorder. Maybe that's it. They change the name of these things all the time. So we'll go back to the skeletons in the closet and the circumstantial evidence. I have another friend that lived in Oklahoma I used to game with. We called him Hakamis. His name is Rusty. And one day he called me a name that no one would associate with me personally unless they knew something about me that they shouldn't have, which was sissy. He called me a sissy. So I'll say this, behind closed doors, as much as I have a masculine side, I had a feminine side that I did not want to show anyone because of situations just like what I find myself in right now. So I believe my older brother, Kenny, also went through my things and found a flash drive with those same images on them, and he spread them within my family, and they would like to take cheap shots at me throughout the year by calling me names like Chrissy, Sissy, and stuff like that. And not only that, but because of what happened to me when I was younger, I also have mommy issues, which I found myself, this is embarrassing to admit, but I gotta just come out with it. I was into ABDL, adult baby diaper lover, kink, among many other kinks and fetishes. I was a real kinkster behind closed doors, by myself, which I thought this would be okay. It's 2024. I thought the things that I'm into would be fine as long as I'm not harming any children or animals. Then everything is, it's all fair, right? But no, not for me. It's different for me because they can't destroy me physically. They have to attack my character, and they have to, come at me with things that at one point bothered me a lot. Like my older sister, who I believe knew about what was on my computer, used to as recently as of the last 3 years, she called me baby a lot, and I told her, don't call me baby anymore. One day, when she was leaving the house, on her way out, she calls me baby after I did or said something she didn't like, which was usually how she called me that. I would do something she didn't like and she would call me baby. So as she's leaving, she calls me baby, and then I say, yeah, I told you not to call me that. She goes, oh, I'm sorry, baby. Did I just call you baby? And anger welled up within me. And as she walks by me, she swings her hand and slaps me square on the ass. I grab her wrist and I push it away from me, which at the time, I'm not even sure I grabbed her wrist, but she said I grabbed her wrist at the time. I possibly did. But yeah. I went off and started yelling at her. My older brother, Ronnie Goodall, was there, and they jumped in the car and sped off while acting like I was crazy for her calling me a name that I told her not to call me nearly 3 times in a row, and then slapping me on the ass and saying she did it by accident. When I went to her house, which was about 5 to 10 minutes away, about 5 blocks, to confront her about this a little later on after I had calmed down, I told her, I can report you for this. And her response to that was, well, I'll tell them that you grabbed my wrist. And my younger brother was there in the house at the time, and he says essentially, yeah, and I'm gonna take her side. So it left me with very little option, because I'm a man and she's a woman, and if she says I hurt her wrist, even though she slapped my ass and claims it was by accident, and she has a witness that says he was there even though he wasn't, I'm out of option. So I basically said, well, if you're gonna go to the police with information that is going to take away my freedom for something that you did to me, then that shouldn't stop me from basically hurting you physically, and no one can stop me. So she kicked me out of her house, and I left. And I had to drop the situation or hurt her physically, which I did not want to do. So I left it alone. I had my entire family putting me in situations where my reaction would get them to paint me in a bad light to call the police, none of which were violent reactions, except for one day when I'm looking for my second cat. After I'll get back into what happened to my first cat, but I got a second cat. Her name is Luna, and I'm looking for my cat in the house, and when she was not in her usual spots, I found her right where I thought she'd be, which was on the second floor of the house, in the room that my younger sister Selena used to use. It had a big hole in the wall from water damage. It's not a room that she should be into, because she could jump into a wall and fall into the walls of the house. So I go all the way upstairs from the basement after calling the cat and not finding it, going all the way upstairs, and lo and behold, there she goes in the room with my younger brother, and my sister comes out of her room, and I go up there and I go, how'd I fucking know? So they start getting on me about being right about finding my cat upstairs being hidden in the room on the second floor, and my younger sister, who's like almost 5'0", is screaming in my face. Now, I told these people years ago I have a few triggers, and one of which is having my face screamed in. Another is being cut off while I'm speaking. And the last one is being called a liar. Right? So they make sure to break these as often as possible. So she's yelling in my face, and me being very angry, I press my head against hers as she starts screaming. Her twin brother at the top of the stairs tries to, hey, what are you doing? So I go up there and I show him what I'm doing. I push him so hard that he flies through the air like an action movie and slides across the floor into the back of the room. And then I go outside because I already know basically what's coming, which was they called the cops and I was committed again. Let's see. So recently, let's see, how do I start this? My younger sister, Dominique, had skipped my birthday, which is September 10th. I believe it's a day off, but September 10th. And she gets my older sister, who she calls a second mother, a present instead, whose birthday is on the 21st. So she intentionally skipped my birthday to get my older sister a present and not me. Okay, I let it slide because she had lost her job shortly after, and I figured when she got it, she'll take care of me then. Well, their birthday rolls around. I get them both a $40 Amazon gift card. Right? My sister picks up a job like a month before Christmas. So I'm thinking she's gonna hold me down for Christmas. No, she did not. Christmas Day, when she went to work, I sent her a text message saying, "Don't forget about my birthday present." And then she just says, "Okay." Fast forward, 2-3 weeks after Christmas, I still didn't receive any gift from her. Because at this point, at this point I wasn't celebrating Christmas anymore, but I still wanted that birthday gift. I confronted her about it and I said, "Hey, what happened to," in my mother's room, mind you, she's about 84 years old. I asked her why she didn't get me a present. She said, "Because you were on this new path and this new journey, so I didn't want to get you a gift." So I basically brought up the fact that she skipped my birthday for my sister, at which point, instead of getting my sister a gift, she could have gotten me one. And she told me that the past is the past, so it doesn't matter. Well, after I brought up the fact that when she wasn't working years before and I was, I had often sent her money when she asked for it. She asked for money on a almost daily basis, bi-weekly, 2 times a week at least. And I would send her between $5 and $20 very often, and I never expected anything in return. So without wanting to hear her response, I walked off. I'm going to fast forward a little bit more now. This is like the very recent, I'd say about 4 months ago. I literally just lost my job, technically lost my job at the security company I was working at called Narrow. What they told me was the reason why I'm taken off the schedule was because I came into work stomping around claiming that I could do whatever I want because I'm high, is what they said to me. I will get into why I think they did that as well, but that's why I had no job at the time. So I spent my time not working, playing video games. Well, my younger sister texts me saying that the cat is running out of food, knowing that I haven't worked in the last 3 to 4 days. So I asked her, why doesn't she go and contact her second mother and ask her for the money? And then I call her a dickhead. At which point she responds at what time she's going to be home. And I told her, well, I'll be in my room just like I always am. And she tells me, say less. Which means to me that she is setting me up to be put in a situation where, because I know she owns a taser, where she could probably tase me and call the cops and make a big scene so that I could get removed from the house and committed and or arrested again. So I preemptively took steps. As petty as this sounds, I took steps against her before she came to the house. I unscrewed all the light bulbs on the on the first floor, and I left the front door open. And there's a room at the other end of the house, my late father's room. I left the light bulb on there on. I put all the bulbs in the vegetable drawer because I believe that's the last place her little fat ass was going to look. And then I left one light bulb at the front door in the little vestibule area, just in case she was smart enough to look around that she'd see she had an extra light bulb. She left her fake eyelash on the kitchen table. I took that, I went upstairs, and I put it on the toilet seat and then closed the toilet. Her mail came in. Oh look, she has deodorant. I opened up her deodorant. I went upstairs. I sprayed it all around the upstairs where her room is until the can was mostly empty. It was a spray on deodorant. And then I put it back in the package and then back in the box, and then I folded the box back up to make it look like it hadn't really been opened. So she also told me what time she'd be home, so I knew I had plenty of time to prepare. And we have a banister leading upstairs. I pushed it over with the strength of a 10-year-old because the house is about 35, 40 years old or something, and that banister is just as old and was already broken. I pushed it over, so she had to push it back to enter the upstairs area. And what I did was I waited in my room, literally streaming Diablo 4 at the time. So at this time, I'm streaming, I'm playing the game. I hear her enter the house. I hear her walk up to the basement stairs, and I knew what was going through her head. Am I ready to start stuff with this man in his room in the basement in the dark? Am I ready to fight a man? Is what was going through her mind. So as she was sitting there thinking about that, I took a hammer and I hit the pipe downstairs a couple times, and I went back to my room. Her ass went outside. She called the cops. She said that I was being violent. You know, I'm skipping steps. She went outside. I heard her walk outside. I get back on the game after knocking the hammer on the pipe, and then I hear a bunch of heavy ass boots walking around upstairs. So I go and I mute the TV and I walk upstairs with the remote, and oh look, it's an entire team deathmatch in my kitchen with riot shields and guns pointed at me, and I have my remote in my hand. And she literally says, he has a knife. So now she's telling the police that have guns drawn on me, I have a knife in my hand. I was afraid to drop it because I was still on the stairs and it was going to fall by my feet. And I don't know what they thought it might have been. So I held it a few seconds longer so they could see it was remote. Then I kind of threw it forward so it could land on level ground where they are standing so they could see it's clearly a remote. I'm in my bulldog onesie. It looks like Spike the dog from Tom and Jerry. And they cuff me and throw me in the back of the truck and take me to the hospital. At which point, when I get to the hospital, the police tell the doctors there that my sister lied about me having a knife in my hand, which prompted them to release me that night. So I came back. They I get the days mixed up because I get the cops called on me so often, but they allowed me to go back home after holding me for an hour or so. And when I get to the house, of course, my sister is acting like she is not home. So I start knocking on the door. The knocking turns into banging, into slamming. Now the whole house is shaking as I'm banging on this door. And then after about 2 minutes, she comes to get the door. So I go back inside, I go into my room. Before the cops took me outside, I told them to tell her, because I told them to go get my phones. I had 2 phones. One is the one I'm recording on, which is my gaming phone, my very new gaming phone, the Red Magic Pro, and this one right here. And I wanted them to get my phones. They couldn't find my phone, so they told her that if she were to take my phone, she will get arrested. When I came back that night, I noticed a big-ass scratch in the middle of my screen. I forgot to mention this, but I took her, I forgot what the salt is called, but it's some pink-looking salt. I stole that as well, and I had it in my room. When I say as well, I didn't steal anything else besides that salt, but I did open her package and spray out her deodorant. That was the only time I really stole something, was that salt. So I'm sure that upon her entering my room and seeing her salt in there, that she got salty and decided to scratch my screen on the phone. And on my bed also laid my Cash App card, mail, without the card in it. I was very upset at the time. So I said, you know what? I just got back from the hospital from this situation. I'll address this in the morning. The morning comes and I go straight upstairs to the second floor where Dominique is. I literally had the toothbrush still in my mouth. Like, I was like, no, I gotta address the scratch on my screen. She tells me that my younger brother, Donald, her twin brother, came from her sister's house, which he's been there for over a week staying there, because I started talking to them with my filter off, and if they tried to do anything silly, I called them out on it. So they decided to act like I was beating their asses and didn't want to be in the house, including my mother. And I'll get into another reason why I believe she stopped coming to the house. She claims that he came all the way from her house to the yellow house where I stay at, and dropped off the mail that had my card missing and was also the one to scratch my screen. The reason I know that scratch was not there beforehand is because I just got the phone, and the day before I dropped the phone on the floor and cracked the screen protector and had taken it off. I hadn't left the house for 3 days, so it had no scratches on there except for that big ass scratch on the middle of my screen. So when I go upstairs to go talk to her about it, I ask her what happened. She says Donald did it. And after a little back and forth, I checked her. This is the first time I've ever done this. I basically did the Kevin Hart no contact boxing, and I did a fake punch, and her little ass flinched really hard. While I already had the suspicion that it was her and that she was lying, that kind of confirmed it. And then I yelled and I screamed in her fucking face because I was very upset that she put a scratch on my phone. Well, after this happened, I told her that I was basically airing out her business, that, you know, she doesn't pay any rent. It's my house that she's living in. She doesn't wash any dishes. She doesn't clean up after herself after she takes a shower. Her younger brother told me she attends sex parties. Hold on, alarm is going off. She attends sex parties. I see her get into random cars with random men, at least on a monthly or bi-weekly basis. Like every other month, I'll see her with a different man in a different car outside the house, or getting picked up by a different man. And not only that, but I can't even get her to cover up in the house. She always has her ass cheeks out and her tits out, and she won't listen to me because they have already conceded to the fact that not only is it not my house, but I have no power there, and she could dress however she wants. One time, she goes outside with the street hooker's uniform, and she gets hollered at by a bunch of men driving by in a car, and she expects me to go run outside and throw my life away because she wants to dress the way she dresses. I find that ridiculous, quite frankly. And even her brother tells her that she should dress differently, because when you dress a certain way as a woman, you're going to get unwanted attention. And it's unfair to me that I have to now fight men that are potentially armed and multiple men because you want to show your body off. Okay, I lost track of where I was even going with that, but oh yeah, so she goes outside after I'm airing out her business out loud, and she sees the Amazon driver delivery person there, and she has her mask on now, and she uses the mask so that you cannot read her lips when she's talking, so she could say different things under her breath so you don't know what she's saying. That's why she uses the mask now. So she walks up and tells the Amazon driver I'm threatening her life and I'm trying to kill her. And of course, the Amazon driver, not knowing any better, sees a 5'9", semi-muscular, scary black man with a beard and assumes she's telling the truth. So yes, the Amazon driver called the cops. So now the cops are coming again. What I decided to do was grab my bags, which I already had packed from the day before, because I was actually planning on fleeing to California, but that failed for me, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I grabbed my bags and some items. I went to the backyard and was like, I gotta just go, because they're gonna arrest me, they're gonna throw me in jail. So I jumped the gate in the backyard and took off. And as I'm leaving the scene, there's a cop car going to my house, and I'm thinking maybe if I could tell my side of the story before they get there, then they'll believe me and I'll have a fair shot at this. So I go to flag down the cop car. They don't stop, they keep going. So I turn down a block and I hide in someone's backyard, and they promptly find me. It looked like somebody had pointed me out or something, so they came back there to kind of get me. And I told them what happened. So they told me, if she tries this again, now you're gonna have proof, because you worked with us this time, and if she tries this again, you can just show them this paper from this and this, and she won't be able to do this to you. And I said, okay. So they take me to the hospital again. I tell the doctors exactly what I'm telling y'all right now, and because the story seems so outrageous, they either think not only am I a liar, but I'm also the best actor in the world. If this is all made up, instead of putting me in a psych ward, I need to just be given the an ability to make my own movie. Since no one wants to believe me, then let's just go with this being a movie script. After some deliberation, about 4 to 5, 6 hours they had me there, they decided to release me, and they didn't know where to send me because they wanted to call the residents to see if it was okay that I come back to the house. My mother, the 84-year-old one, who's been staying at my sister's house at this time, I could provide dates and stuff later, but she tries to get me sent to the homeless shelter instead of the house. Mind you, she hadn't been at the house for a couple weeks. And my younger sister, when I get back to the house after they drop me off in the cab, is waiting outside with her bags packed, and she goes to my older sister's house to stay there. Well, I thought, okay, I freaking did it. Now they can't call the cops no more. I'm home free. I'm streaming Diablo again, and I'm making dinner, and I get a knock at the door. There's 5 cops, and they're issuing me a order of protection from these 3 family members with all the charges I had listed off before. Upon me being ejected from the house until the court date, which keeps moving, I've been out the house since March 26th. Yeah, 26th, March 26th. And I went to court a couple weeks ago. And prior to me going to court a couple weeks ago, I asked them when the next time this would be resolved is. And the 21st of last month is what they told me. So when I go into court, they told me, no, now you have to wait until September 30th. So they keep kicking this can down the road. And I'm going to tell you why I believe they're doing that. They're trying to break me. And they're trying to silence me. Well, after the court, after basically they tell me I can't come back to the house, I get some paperwork saying that basically, let me see, I can come back and collect some things. I am sorry for the pausing. It's just my memory is all over the place, and I'm trying to keep it cohesive. But I come back to the house without the police because I called them up for an escort, and at this point I decided to stop verbally speaking because every time I spoke, people purposefully misunderstood what I was saying and used it as a pretext to either do some kind of harm to me or try to paint me into a corner by using my own words against me. So I started just showing people my phone. I went back to the house without the police escort because I had been waiting about 3 hours. And I noticed that the doors were blocked. Like there's a chair in front of the door, there's a chair at the back door, and it looks like she's barricaded herself in the house by herself. Okay? I literally check up on her, and I ask her when the last time her younger brother, her twin brother, came to check on her. She said like last week sometime. And I went to go get my stuff downstairs, And upon doing so, there's a knock at the door. Surprise! It's the police that took a very long time to escort me to get my things. But whenever it's time to arrest me, they are right on time. They come in 15 minutes or less when it's my neck on the line, to be cuffed and taken away. So I get a very intimate, hands-on full body rub down to make sure I have no weapons on me by a very burly black officer who seemed very happy to fondle my balls while doing it. And I just didn't even talk. And they didn't want to give me my phone so I could communicate to them because I just knew nothing was going to work. Well, unbeknownst to me, until I found out later, she said that I had came into the house and threatened her life, of course, because it's only me and her in there. She could just say whatever she wants, and because I'm violating the court order that I had refused to respect, which was based on lies and slander, and I thought it was innocent until proven guilty. Well, it was not in this case, and no one is willing to check to see if the house is in my name. Well, I am taken to the local precinct and put in a cage, essentially. First time in my life for that. And one of the officers offers me some sushi. She's like, oh, we got some sushi left over. She comes back to me with 3 pieces of sushi on a plate. The rice is hard and the avocado is turning brown. And I look at her like she's crazy and drop the shit on the floor because it was for pure disrespect that they did that. The lady cop is looking at me through this little glass partition outside of the cage that I'm in and just smiling at me the whole time. And I'm getting increasingly more frustrated to the point where I'm banging on the wall. I was hitting my head on the wall. And they seem to find joy in watching me be so frustrated in the fact that no one is listening to anything that I'm saying and my freedom has been taken away. They told me to basically relax, so they're going to cuff me to this bar that's on a bench. And the bar that's on this bench where I'm supposed to sit is protruding in a way that if you were to sit on the bench, your back would have to be arched like this because the bar would be pressing into your back. So I gave it up and I stopped talking. And I'm just in this very small, like I could take about 4 steps until I'm from one side to the other. And they had me in there for about 3 to 4 hours. Then they took me to bookings and had me in a slightly bigger cage with a bunch more men. There was a guy across from my enclosure that was very loud and making a bunch of noise, kicking this metal grate that was making a lot of noise and whatnot. I ended up saying some words to him that, in hindsight, sometimes I just say things that come to mind and I can't help it, but I've gotten better at it. And I told him, if you're not going to be the loudest one here, don't even bother making noise. So he starts talking shit to me. I take off my shirt and I start doing some push-ups and I start doing my workout in there. And then he starts saying he doesn't care how big I am and he's gonna kill me. So what I do is I give him my address. I tell him where I live. I'm like, sure. Okay, so my address is 120-19 224th Street, Cambria Heights, zip code 11411. I'll see you there. And somehow he knew I had a grandmother or maybe an older maternal guardian kind of figure that he said he was also going to kill. And then after they move us from that area, they move us into the bigger area where now people are waiting to be processed, and he's in there now. So now I'm in the room with him, and what he decides to do is tell me how crazy he is and introduce me to his cousin, who is slightly taller and bigger than him, thinking that now I'm going to back down because he showed me his cousin. And he's letting me know it's two of us, and look at, I'm very crazy and I'm a killer, and look at my cousin. So it doesn't, I actually apologized before he did any of this, because I figured I'll be the bigger man in the situation. And he subtly accepts the apology. So I walk away and I go sit down on the empty seat next to his cousin that I'm not scared of. And his cousin leans over to kind of lay on the bench and hits me with his elbow. And I tell him that if you hit me with your elbow, do not be surprised if I hit you with my elbow. Now he's talking about fighting. Then the main guy comes up and he's like, yo, we'll fight you. Yo, you want to fight? You want to fight? And they go on this back and forth, want to fight stuff. And I'm just trying to explain to them that, yo, he hit me with his elbow. And now he goes to the name calling. Okay, the same person who said that he's going to cut random people's legs off and X, Y, and Z, he goes to name calling. He calls me a dumb fuck. Well, out of his ranting, he had said that he's 18 years old and he had a child at the age of 15. So I brought up the fact that after he said I was a dumb fuck, that he had a child at the age of 15. And for that, he said I must die. And not only that, but nearly 2/3 of the men in this enclosed area, it was about 25 men in there. 2/3, I'd say, yeah, about 2/3 of them immediately took his side while the others just ignored. And they was, you can't say that. You can. They all started verbally coming after me. And it looked like they were all about to just beat me up in there. Somehow an 18-year-old garnered the respect of a bunch of other men that are in there for some kind of crime. I forgot to add this in there, but I'll say it now. I actually read off that the crimes that I'm being accused of in this court order in the cell room, or whatever you want to call it. So everybody heard it. It's going to become relevant later on. Well, after they process us, I speak to my lawyer and whatnot. Oh, no, actually, yeah, they're all yelling at me. And it gets to the point where they had to move me into my own separate cell. It was like a flat slab that I couldn't lay on because my hip was hurting or my back was hurting. I ended up curling up on the table in the room where they introduced you to the lawyer and stuff. They had me in there for a long time. I don't know how long it was because there were no windows and no clocks. So I'm assuming, I couldn't tell you how long I was in there. It was a really long time. I fell asleep a couple times in very uncomfortable positions until they finally introduced me to a lawyer. I was released, and I had that day at I think like 10 o'clock to go get my stuff again, this time with the police, from my house. And as I get my stuff back from the other precinct, I end up making my way back to the E train, and that's how I was basically spending my nights. Is if I wasn't at the homeless shelter on Randall's Island at the something gay loop, that I was riding the train back and forth. Well, I'm riding the train back and forth, waiting for you know, the appropriate time to get off and go get some stuff from the house. And as I'm on the train, I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at some videos, and the video comes up and it's this guy talking about look out for unexpected visitors. And what do you know? It's the same man from bookings with two of his friends. Neither one of his friends were the same man from bookings. There was two smaller gentlemen, and he had a knife this time. I see him enter the car from the other side, and this is around Lexington and 53rd, and he walks up right in front of me with his two friends, and they kind of get me in the corner, and he says, "I told you I was going to kill you, right?" And then he calls me a rapist because of the charges that I had listed out in there. And one of them kicks my leg, so I stand up and I put my hands up. I guess they were expecting me to run or something. And let's just say I think God kind of helped me out in the situation a little bit, because one of the men tried to kick me again, and I literally punched his foot, and his foot hit the ground. And I even told them in there that I've never been in a fight before in my life. So they stood there for like 2 seconds, and so did I. Like, I thought this nigga didn't fight. He just punched my foot to the ground. So then we start fighting. As I'm dealing with his two smaller friends, he gets behind me, he stabs me in the back 3 times, and no one on the train car helps me at all. They don't say nothing, they're just watching. And then, as I'm manhandling his two smaller friends, I turn my ire to the main taller culprit with the knife, and I start walking towards him, and he flees to the other cart. And I notice my shirt is sticking to me, and my breathing is weird, and now there's bubbles coming out my back because he punctured my lung. So now my lung is collapsed, and I step off the car, and there's about 8 officers waiting on the platform, waiting to put me on a stretcher, and EMS is right there, right on time to take me to the hospital, like clockwork. Yeah, it's just coincidentally, the man that I met in bookings finds me on a moving train going back and forth. Now, when I bring up any of these kinds of stories to people that are close to me, like people I used to call friends and or family, they will call me crazy for thinking that these things are not just a big coincidence. Well, they take me to the hospital, and I'm there for about a week. This was on April 7th. I am the man that was stabbed, and apparently that was shown on the news. My younger brother and sister, Donald and Selena, came to visit me in the hospital. Selena, who called me a zoo animal for busting out all the lights in the house and breaking stuff and doing all these things, which she never called me to ask for my side of the story. She just, in a voicemail, called me a zoo animal. And my younger brother, who has the court order against me where apparently I raped his sister, come to visit me in the hospital. And I'm thinking to myself, if I did all the things that they're claiming I did, is that not me just getting what I deserve? So I decline anyone from seeing me, because obviously I believe they have it out for me. My older sister, who lives a few blocks away, I could have stayed at her house, but she had my mother living there with her for about a week. Now, if the problem, which was me, was out the house, wouldn't that mean that my mother, sister, and brother could go back to living in the house that my mother owns? Or my sister told me it was her name and my older brother Gerald on the deed. Like it was, they were both co-ownership of the house. Wouldn't it make more sense for them to go live there while I stay at my older sister's house? No, what they did was they split up, so I couldn't stay at either house. And then my older brother Eric is calling me nonstop, who loves his mother to death. He would kill for this lady. And if we were to take things at face value, he is calling me nonstop and wants me to stay with him. That makes little sense to me, considering I'm raping and stealing and stalking and doing all of these things that they say that I'm doing. Right? So I end up really not talking to anyone. I go back to the homeless shelter where one of the men there let me use his Wi-Fi, and he told me it was going to be like $3 for a week or something like that, and I had a $5 debt to pay with him, and I refused to beg for money. This entire time I've been out the house, I haven't bought anything. I haven't even touched money. I refuse to touch money. If anything, I will steal food before I beg for money, and that's exactly what I've been doing. My Instagram is Chris Prime, ChrisPR1M3. I think the username is NoSQL, right? That's going to become relevant later on because I've been posting a bunch of what's been happening to me on there, and I've been getting no results except for trolls and just my Instagram acting funky. I currently, right now, only have 4 followers, and of the 4 followers, I cannot see any of them. I can't see who these people are. I just have 4 invisible followers. But, where was I? Sorry, I keep trailing off. Oh, yeah. So this man is telling me I gotta pay him back or else. And he flashes a box cutter and tells me, yeah, I'm going to slit your throat in your sleep if you don't pay me back. This is over $5. I'm supposed to believe that my after I've just been stabbed and lost all my stuff, that basically all my belongings are in the house where I was just arrested. So now I'm just walking around with hospital clothes and that's it. And if I don't come up with this $5, I'm going to be killed. Throughout the couple weeks that I've been there, he's been doing different stuff to me, like throughout the day. I try not to hang out at the shelter. I try to go different places instead of hang at the shelter. Let me see, where do I start? Coincidentally, my bed was 66, and the staff there would often ask me if my bed is 666. So, like, the first lady who asked me that, I asked her in return, do you have 666 beds here? And she said no. I said, so no, my bed is not 666. There was a mini Bible on top of my locker that I started reading. Upon me reading that Bible, the next day I come in, they're turning out the lights really early. I had a Bluetooth speaker with me there. My Bluetooth speaker goes missing after I fall asleep, which prior to me falling asleep, one of the gentlemen there also let me borrow his Xbox controller. So they don't take the Xbox controller, they just take my speaker, which they tell me at random times, sometimes it's too loud and people are trying to sleep. I also read my my court-ordered charges in there, and they told me they pack people up for doing stuff that I've been accused of doing. Not only that, but anyone that I've talked to in this homeless shelter says to me, forget about the house. They assume I'm telling the truth about the house, and they say, forget about the house. We're here to get housing. Forget about the house. You could get your own room. These are people that are homeless telling me to forget about a house that they believe, because they're under the assumption that they believe that the house is in my name because of my story, but forget about the house. Forget it. That's what I've been told at both homeless shelters, and I'll tell you why I'm at a second homeless shelter. Well, one day, this man, he waits until, I like to sleep in the buff. I'll be real, I sleep nude. He waits until I'm getting ready for bed, and he's yelling and screaming in my face for this $5 and spitting in my face. So and this is at a time where I'm verbally not speaking. When I was staying at the shelter, I had not spoken verbally, and when he did that the first time after I got back from the hospital, I was like, you know what, I'm not speaking no more, because they're just using my words against me, and they're using it to beat me up and threaten me, and the cops literally don't do anything. So what I do is hold on, let me think. Okay, yeah, he's screaming in my face. So I get out of bed when he's done, and I put my pants on, and I walk up to him, and I'm waiting for him to scream some more so I could handle people screaming in my face how I would normally handle it. Mind you, this is a man that's using a cane, and I am not a violent person, as like I said before, that I haven't fought anyone in my entire life until that day I was stabbed on the train. That was the first time I punched someone in the face. Well, he would, the next time he had an engagement with me was about a few days later. Now he's tapping me on the head with his cane. He waits until I've got either no clothes on under the covers or my underwear's on. So I'm like, okay, obviously I can't be in the bed with no underwear on anymore, because he's going to keep taking this opportunity to do this to me. Oh, and I also want to throw out there that I've stayed at this shelter prior to this situation, and of course they have a pink blanket waiting for me. Yeah, they got a pink blanket with my name on it. The third time was like that was it, because I kind of felt like it was coming for 2 nights on Randall's Island. This was I'm not sure the date. I'll get dates and stuff later, but it was about 50 degrees outside. I had a blanket and my pillow and my hospital clothes, and I toughed it out outside for a couple days, and even though it was so cold, I had about 20 mosquito bites on me, and yeah, I didn't really get much sleep because it was so cold. So I'm like, okay, forget staying outside. The day I decide to go back, he approaches me, and now I'm armed with my phone and the text-to-speech app, and I type in there. When I get to the shelter, I would show the people my phone. Like I would show them my phone like this and have them read my phone, which I would have my name on there, and then I've taken a vow of silence. Now they got a whole new lady in there that's checking people in. The lady been in there for the first time, and I'm trying to show her my phone, and she's like, whatever you trying to show me, you better show the man at the front door. Don't show me nothing. I can't see nothing. Don't show me nothing. She's already belligerent. So I figure when I get on the scene, it's lights, camera, action, because I knew something was about to go down. Just don't show her nothing. So I broke out the text-to-speech app, which she didn't know I had, because I just started using it prior to coming in there. And I asked her if, I had any mail, and she said no. So I go to my bed, and that guy is in there again. He waits until I get in bed, and he waits until, I take my pants off, and I take out my phone to do the text-to-speech when he's asking where his money is. And it ended up with me basically saying, when I get paid, you get paid. because I was waiting for assistance from New York, the public assistance, which I put in 2 cases and they've both been thrown out. I also want to say that apparently the mayor spoke on my case, but he never talked to me directly. I also called out the mayor on my Instagram the day before what I'm about to tell you transpired. So, I am now confronted with this man who's yelling in my face and is not happy with when I get paid, you get paid, because now he wants his $5 right now. And he had a pack of ramen, like a cup of ramen. He smacks me in the face with it. So I'm like, you know what, fuck it, underwear, no underwear. I jump out of bed and we start fighting. This man who's using the cane, which, mind you, I don't underestimate anyone. I didn't care if he used the cane. I never underestimated this man because he always had his clothes on. I don't know what he looks like under his clothes, and I was right to not underestimate him because he was strong enough to lift me off the floor against the wall that they have the part, like, to separate the different areas. He's got me lifted off the floor for at least 30 seconds, and I have him in a headlock. You can't see it, but I'll have pictures of it. He bites me on my arm, and he rips my underwear. He's trying to rip my underwear off, and he scratched me on the side. And now he has his friends gathered around watching this all go down. No one's saying nothing. The entire dorm is completely quiet, where recently, I'm going to come back to that story if I remember. I hope I do. Recently, I witnessed a man have a knife fight, well, basically stab someone right in front of my section out of this dorm where it's about a little under 100 people in this area. And somehow the fight goes from, it starts at one side of the dorm and ends up right in front of my section. The guy gets stabbed apparently, because I didn't see any blood, and the ambulance comes in about 5 minutes, and they're talking about, oh man, he almost died, and everybody's up and jumping around and looking and yelling. And then I witnessed a fight a couple weeks later, and someone got hit in the head with a pipe and he's bleeding, and everybody's talking shit, they're yelling, they got the music playing. Well, when I'm in this situation with this man, the whole dorm goes completely quiet, and there's about 6 or 7 people. The dorm is, with these walls are sectioned, these stone walls, they're about 5 feet tall. Like, it's not all the way up to the ceiling. So you could see across the dorms. Like, you could see across the entire room. And it's a very big room. And it's about 8 beds per section. And yeah, there's just men watching us. So this is the time I said, you know what, fuck it, I'm talking now. I told them, yo, I'll kill you. Yeah, I'll kill you. And then I told them, after the fight was over and he had enough, I told them to kill me. I said, y'all want me dead, come and kill me. So I go put my pants on, and I come back and I punch him in the mouth, at which point I split my hand open, and apparently I ripped a tendon or a ligament or something, and I had to go to the hospital. So it looks like I took more damage punching that man in the mouth after I put my pants on than the entire fight itself. Try to get some light in here. So I go to the hospital, and before I go to the hospital, I tell the police officer that came to hear about the case that I want to press charges. Completely ignored me. They go to check on the man and said they couldn't find him, and then they said they found him, but then they don't know where he went. Nothing happened to him. They didn't do anything about the fight that took place. I come in the next day. Oh, I think this is where I spent the night outside. Yeah, so he's in there, and I see him when I come back to go to sleep. And after I stopped reading the Bible, where they stopped turning out all the lights really early, now they're keeping the light specifically on over my bed. So now I have the light perpetually on over my bed, even though the lights in most of the area is off. And I have a hard time sleeping with the lights on. So I believe it was done on purpose. Also, after they took my speaker, 3 different speakers, like 3 different men had speakers in there that were bigger than mine and were playing a lot louder than mine, and they were playing these speakers well until 2 o'clock in the morning. Not only that, but you're not supposed to smoke in there. People's got weapons, they're smoking. It's literally a lawless zone for everyone but me. I'm being told I cannot speak. Like when I'm telling the truth about what's going on with my case. Yo, it's too early to be talking about that. Yo, it's too late. People are trying to sleep. It's always too early or too late for me to be talking. Or my music is always too loud. So now I'm trying to go to sleep. The light's on. I'm sleeping with my shirt over my head. And I am woken up by the same wooden cane I brought up earlier being slammed over my head. After the wooden cane hits me in the head, I am punched and kicked by about 10 men to the point they knock me out the bed, and I've got about 5 or 6 men punching and kicking me. And this is after I called out the mayor and said that he's Mr. Nimbus from Rick and Morty. And I'm getting beaten by 10 men right out of my sleep, punching and kicking me in my underwear. And I'm pretty sure someone was recording. And they're all beating me up. And I'm like, okay. So that's what it is now. So they said, yeah, we told you we was going to pack you up. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I thought pack me up meant like throw me in a body bag and take me away. So I'm like, okay. So I'm battered and bruised. Honestly, the injuries were not that bad. I don't even have pictures of the injuries because the worst one was like the injury to my head, which was a big knot on the right here, but you couldn't see it because of my hair. I'll say I believe I was protected that day because they did no damage, but the mental abuse, the mental is abuse the right word? The mental damage that happened from that encounter was pretty massive. It had me, I had a difficult time sleeping for a couple days, maybe 4 days, just falling asleep out of fear that I'm going to be beaten again. Well, I'm sent to the SUS shelter in Brooklyn, served for the underserved, and upon getting a taxi ride there from the hospital, mind you, the cops that let me backtrack. I'm skipping steps. After I was beaten, I packed up my stuff and I'm waiting in the lobby, and there's a guy in there, lights, camera, action. There's a guy in there talking about, look at his hand. Oh, if they did that to me, I would fuck them up. I would kill them. And this X, Y, and Z. So now everyone's paying attention to the man that's yelling and talking about what he would do if people did that to him. And no one is paying attention to me, the man that was just jumped by 10 men. And that hand injury that I had before, they made great effort to target my hands. They didn't want me pressing buttons no more. They didn't want me thinking straight, so they knocked my head around. Okay? The cop is sitting there I know it's getting late, so the lights are not the best because the sun is setting, but I'm going to tell this story again, and I'm going to have props if I ever get the chance. Well, the cop is making a face like, oh man, that's terrible. Oh man, and no one is moving to get the men that beat me up. One of which I explicitly told had a wooden cane, and there's only one man who I had an altercation with who had the cane, which I wanted to press charges against, and nothing happened. Well, again, nothing happened. The cops went into the room and everybody was asleep. So when I'm getting beat up by 10 men, everybody in the entire dorm is asleep. And it's called CSS, and I believe that was the Chris Suppression Squad. Everybody in there were on payroll, literally against me. That's what it seemed like to me. And it's a coincidence that after I'm beaten in my sleep, that everybody falls asleep. Okay, so fast forward to the hospital. Yeah, the injuries aren't that bad. And they send me to that same shelter in Brooklyn, 1000 Blake Avenue. And they saved me breakfast, right? They saved me breakfast. And the first meal I ate in there had me pissing out my butt for about 4 days straight. And I knew no one else had that issue because my roommates were in there farting, that same night and many days after. I'm the only one who's had some kind of food poisoning off of a meal that they saved for me. And not only that, but there's stuff written on the wall talking about if you've been food poisoned, then go look up this thing. I got a picture of almost everything I'm talking about in here. Oh, this video is running kind of long. I'm gonna try to wrap it up. So the next incident to happen is 2 weeks I get to my bed. I get to my newly acquired bed, and there's some like Chinese food iced tea cups filled with piss and cum. Two of them on like one on the locker and one on the floor. There's spoiled food in my broken locker. There's an entire meal of chicken and rice tossed upside down on the floor. There's newspapers on the bed. There's a pair of neon green booty shorts on the bed. What else? It was a bottle of liquor under the bed. It was everything you could think of. There's so many lightning bugs out here. They're going crazy. Let's see if they can pick this up. Looks pretty beautiful out here. I don't know if that can be seen, but hold on. Maybe it's better you can't see me at this point. Yeah, so I had to clean all of it up by myself. I keep skipping steps. So at this point, I'm still not talking. I go in there and I'm like, actually, I talked after that. After I got jumped by the 10 men, I was definitely talking after a while because everybody pretended to not know what I was talking about as I was typing. I was like, this all happened because of the price of a sausage, egg, and cheese. And they're like, so he beat you up over a sausage, egg, and cheese? And no one understands English, which is why I had to start describing what I'm talking about. But ultimately, nothing came of that. Yeah, so I asked the man that's cleaning downstairs if I could get a broom if I could get a broom. And he's like, yeah, I'll be up there in 10 minutes. Right? I waited 40 minutes. I came back and I waited 40 minutes, and when he finally got upstairs, he told me to hurry up. He said, be quick with it. So, not only that, but the man that was in the room as well wanted to borrow the broom. So the man that wanted to borrow the broom, I said, fuck it. I'm sweeping the whole room. So I swept the whole room up, and I cleaned up my stuff. And I walk up to the guy that works there that told me to hurry up, that should have been the one to clean up the mess that I had to clean up. And I start talking. I'm like, yo, the guy in there said that you said he could borrow the broom. So I cannot bring it right back. He said, I thought you wasn't talking. It was a trap to get me caught between not giving that guy the broom because the guy told me to hurry up, so that guy could also have problems with me. That's what I believe anyway. But maybe I'm crazy and don't know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, all kinds of stuff is going on. There are people playing, again, loud music. There was a guy across from me playing literal just porn noise. It sounded like someone getting their cheeks clapped while beating their meat and brushing their teeth at the same time. And he's just playing this, and at random times it just sounds like moaning. And he's playing this on his phone, full blast, while I'm trying to sleep. I have no headphones. I have nothing. And I know if I complain about any of this, I'm just going to be beaten up or stabbed again with no recourse. So I have to just literally take it. Some nights, one night, one of the men who's, mind you, they're smoking 24/7 in the room. Whenever I'm in there, there's always smoke in the air. At one point, I've seen them take down the fire detectors. I've seen the security come into the room while they're smoking and say, "Don't burn the place down," is what the security said to the man in the room. So, again, another lawless zone where only I have to follow the laws, all the rules in there if I want to stay in there, and everyone else can do whatever they want. So, I don't know why it hadn't hit me earlier, but I remembered that you could download videos on YouTube, and I wanted to listen to music because it's been many weeks. So, I download some songs because I would wake up and do my morning workout. And during this morning workout, I turn my phone on. It's literally about 6:55 in the morning. They serve breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. And not only that, but prior to this happening, they have been playing music from sundown till sunup whenever. They are often asleep in the room until it's time to go to sleep. And then, until recently, when I'm trying to sleep, everyone's up and active at night. So, I decide to listen to some music, half volume on my phone, and the guy across from me in the dorm tells me to turn it down. I'm like, you know what? Sure. I turn it down a little bit. But that wasn't enough. Then he tells me, yo, you're not the first person I told to turn the music down to. And I was like, I haven't seen that. And then he says, you haven't seen me tell anyone else turn down the music? And I tell him, I'm not going to answer that. So he pops out of bed, he reaches in his pillowcase and pulls out a knife, and then sits right across from me and tells me, for my perceived sarcasm, he's going to stab me if I don't agree that the comment I made wasn't me being sarcastic. If I don't agree to being sarcastic, he's going to stab me. So I said, okay, I'm being sarcastic. Then he tells me, you know what, turn the music off now. So I turned the music off because I'm not trying to get stabbed again. And then I said, all right, yes, sir. And he goes, don't call me sir. He said, how old are you? I tell him how old I am. He said, I'm only a year older than you. Don't call me sir. He's looking for any excuse in the world to stab me with this little knife. He is strictly, I believe, been sent there to just stab me with that knife for that moment right there. Mind you, this is taking place 2 minutes before the man came in the room to tell us breakfast is now being served. He came down for breakfast. It's not even like he went back to sleep. He came down for breakfast. And I came back early that same, because I would usually hang out all day until curfew, which is 11. I came back early that day to see if he'd still be there so I could snap a picture of him. Gone. He wasn't back that night. After, he was strictly there to stab me, and when that failed, he moved to a different room, and I believe maybe moved to a different room, but I hadn't seen him since. And I also forgot to mention that when they did the intake for the last shelter I was in on Randall's Island, which they had to do another new intake because when I stayed there before, apparently they didn't even do an intake at all, and I didn't get the basic necessities that everyone else was getting, and that I only was getting them like a month into being there. I left my emergency contact blank, but after I was jumped by the 10 men and I was in the hospital, somehow now my older sister's on the emergency contact list. I believe these schemes and plots were plans to get me to run back home because they are afraid that somebody might take me serious and blow up this whole operation. I believe there are corrupt police involved, and wherever I have an appointment or I gotta go somewhere, these people are paid to basically look the other way or not help me the way they're supposed to, or not to essentially listen to anything I have to say and take me serious at all, because that's exactly what's been happening to me since I left the house. And all of these crazy things have been happening to me. Prior to me getting kicked out the house, like I said, I haven't even been in a fight. I've been jumped before, like in junior high, like one time by three men in high school. I don't want to say men. Three high schoolers while I'm in junior high, and I got punched in the mouth for a straw and a pen. And I also got robbed for my phone, which, thinking back, I would have, if I went back in time, I would have threw that phone over a gate. But yeah, I got robbed by some kids that actually, one of them went to my school. His name was Jason. Yeah, I saw your ass. He was sitting in the back seat of the car. They threatened to hit me in the head with a lock, and I was like, all right, yeah, take the phone. It's not that big a deal. But yeah, prior to like those two incidents, no violence or anything dangerous has not really happened to me. And anyone that I've had issues with usually didn't want to go there with me. Let's go back to the skeletons in the closet. So the man I called my best friend, I believe, took these images and showed them to my friends behind my back, because my friend group, I had about 10 friends, 10, 12 friends maybe, that we used to go to anime conventions with. And after this situation where essentially I told a couple people what had transpired at my friend's house about me going to slaughter his family for what I believe he had done, I believe that same man got into contact with other friends of mine that was outside of this friend group and told people stories that I told about them. I used to gossip about one group of friends to another, and I would tell this man and his brother mostly everything, and I believe they went and told everyone else everything I said about them. Mind you, none of these things were lies, but they were unflattering stories. But I believe he twisted the truth. He added his own thing in there, and everyone basically slowly started backing off from me and treating me weird. I got one friend who lost my number coincidentally. I have this one girl I was taking to the gym to work out with, and it took her 2 weeks to pay me back $15, even though she was getting an excessive amount of hours at work. I got friends inviting me to places and not showing up. I got people calling my phone and laughing. People calling my phone and hanging up. People calling my phone and breathing. All kinds of weird stuff going on. So I decided to distance myself from everyone and focus on basically God. I said, you know what? I'm going to stop my bad habits. And I started getting into the Word. I'm going to get the date for you later, but I got baptized. I believe it was October something of last year. I don't remember. But after I got baptized, with the objective being to follow in Christ, I did the one thing that one could do that Christ had done, which was commit to doing a 40-day fast. While I just picked up this new security job, I've been working there for a few months. They just put me at a new site in Harlem. I'm working at 125th at a methadone clinic in Harlem, and I keep it to myself that I'm doing this fast, except for my supervisor, who kind of guessed that I was gonna do it because I was reading the Bible and basically saw that I wasn't eating. Said, "What, you go fast for 40 days?" And I was like, "Yeah, but don't tell anyone." So she was like the only one I told. Yeah, I came in every day to work. Didn't miss any days, and I was early every single day, except for one day, the day I left early. The day I left early to go to work, I got there late. That one day. But outside of that, I was early every single day, and I didn't tell anyone. My mother was pretending to be worried, talking about, you don't need to not eat to get closer to God. And I'm thinking in my head, how would you know? She's overweight. My little sister looked ecstatic to see the body weight fly away from me because I had some muscle mass and it was basically all gone. I was wearing hoodies for most of the time so people couldn't tell. And the one day I wore my Under Armour shirt, she had a smile on her face, making fun of how fat, like how my body had slimmed down. I'm pretty sure they were hoping I was going to die from this. But as I was focusing on that fast, I was also reading the Word. I didn't finish the entire Bible, but I believe I read what I needed to read. So, after finishing this 40-day fast, I did what I believe God wanted me to do, which was tell anyone who wanted to hear the truth about the world in its current state and how we got to where we are now and what you can do to basically get to where you need to be. I was doing it at work. I was doing it on the train. There was a homeless man on Jamaica Avenue across the street from Family Court who has his own like makeshift ministry, who gives out free Bibles. He said that this man that he had getting them sent to his house, that he was overcharging him for the Bibles. So I took over and I started even just buying some of the shipments straight out, or paying for half of it. And I was, sometimes we would go out there and speak on the mic and tell people, what they needed to do to get right with God. But I ran into another the man in question is evangelic, and I can't say that word. Evangelist True was his name. Well, I met another young man who came to the ministry, and his name was Chris. His name was also Chris. And he had a YouTube channel called Chris the Truth, which after this incident that I'm going to tell you about, it disappeared. His entire YouTube channel disappeared. Chris the Truth, he told me he was 16 years old. He was, a follower of God and X, Y, and Z. And after I did my 40-day fast, and I'm trying to get connected with like-minded people, he tells me to come to his church. So I go to his church, Highland Church, I believe it is. I'll leave links, and I got pictures. I'm going to expose all of this. He takes me to his church, and I go in there, and I got my Bluetooth speaker with me. And this is when stuff went downhill for me, because I went into a church and started. I'm gonna get back to that. So in this church, they have like 4 gigantic speakers. I believe like 2 on the floor and 2 hanging on the ceiling, and they are like bigger speakers than I've seen in clubs. They have a whole dance performance with ladies and these, I don't know what you want to call them, like flags, these long flag looking things, and they're doing a whole performance. They got the music playing, and I'm talking to Chris, who's sitting right next to me, at only a volume where he can hear me, and this lady in the row up front, 3 or 4 seats down, comes up and tells me I have to be quiet. So I jump in my phone and I go and find a scripture that says women are to be silent in the church. And I merely hold the phone out for her to read. She reads it and she gets security on me. So now security is telling me I gotta go. I get up and I start conversing with security in the back area, trying not to make a scene. And I'm telling them essentially that, hey, well, scripture says this. So if she had obeyed the scripture, this conversation wouldn't even be happening. And they said we all fall short, and I told them speak for yourself, and that's when they kind of lost it. I played some music on my speaker, which I will tell you that I will get the song for you later, and I did the slow walk out. And as I'm by the door to leave, as I get to the lobby, I look behind me, and there's literally over 10 men following behind me. It looked like a little mini parade. I lost it. I dropped to the floor crying, laughing, at which point 2 or 3 of the men ran in and grabbed me by the arms and legs, took me to the middle of the room, and wrestled me and choked me, and more men jumped on top of me. I had about 5 or 6 men on top of me, wrestling and wrenching around my limbs while choking me and putting... So one man was on my head and put his entire body weight on my head as I'm being choked to the point where I literally couldn't breathe. And I had to fake a seizure, and then they're saying, we plead the blood of Christ on you, or something like that. They're chanting over and over while I had waves at the time, and they're pushing my hair backwards. And like he's petting me. And they acted like they completed an exorcist because I faked having a seizure so they would stop. I got up and hugged everyone in there because I didn't want them to do that shit again. And before leaving, mind you, while this is happening, Chris the Truth is recording it, and they usher him out the room, out of the room where they're doing this. And then he comes back later, but they let me up. I hug everyone in there, and before I get to leave, 15 cops storm in through the bathroom. Like, apparently there's an exit or an entrance to the room to the building from the bathroom somehow. I don't know. But they storm into the room from the bathroom, and they ask if everything's okay, and then one of the officers asked me if I smoked K2. After these men just assault me. So I'm like, okay, it's one of these situations. I say no, and then I left. I went and I bought Chris some food at Shake Shack. We had some Shake Shack. And then I went home and I said, you know what? Obviously, me doing the right thing gets me these kinds of results. So obviously, I'm not supposed to be following the book. So I immediately go and I get some weed. And I get a vape. And I buy some sex toys. Yep, and I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'm going home and I'ma just live in sin, because me doing the right thing is getting me these kinds of results. And that's how I got to where I am right now. My older sister, I quickly ran through the money because I bought this phone that I'm recording with now, some sex toys. I even sent Marcus Rogers $400, and he banned me from his chat for preaching. I was preaching using super chats, and he banned me after I donated $400. I donated a lot of money to different groups and stuff like that, and people act like, hey, it's not a big deal. Anyway, let me see, where was I? I don't want to leave anything out because I'm already almost 2 hours in. Maybe I'll wait, but it's pretty dark out here, and I gotta head back to my hellhole. I'll say this, that yeah, violence has been legalized against me, and most people look at me and immediately judge a book by its cover. I have all the time, no matter where I go, I'm being told I can't sit on the sidewalk in certain places. I have cops telling me, yo, you can't sit here, you can't stand here. I'm by my job in Harlem on 125th, and a police officer literally comes up to me and tells me, you can't sit on the sidewalk. I'm not welcome anywhere except for being in, the homeless shelter, where I'm basically, I'll say, being hidden in plain sight. I'm gonna throw some quote at you, and which is, a tree by its fruit, and anything is possible through God. And now I'm going to play this song, and I'm gonna read you something I came up with. I don't know if I'm a poet or a rapper, but I do have a way with words, and this is something I've come up with in my time away from the house. There's bugs, the mosquitoes are biting now. Let me hurry up. Okay. I call this King's Ransom. Words come to life, big picture. Cinema to the flat screen. Android takes a bite out of the big apple. The winds of change are blowing. Obama took 8 years to drop the ball. Good thing Michelle had a couple spares. Read between the lines. Stay tuned. Don't blink. Leg day is fast approaching. Masterpiece in motion. Encore. Deja vu. Double Helix. Double entendre. Lightning strikes twice. I'm a ship in a bottle. Call it Noah's Ark. I'm the captain. Where do you think we're going? You can't believe it's not Wakanda. One-way trip, no U-turns, detours or pit stops. Eyes closed, I'll still get to where I need to be. Pick up sticks, Y-axis inverted. I'll flip the world on its head. Turn up the sensitivity, red ring of death, it's game over. No 360. Head on a swivel, 180 degrees. Who's who? The game of you guess who is now over, and it's no longer a mystery. Slim Shady, please sit down. We will not be heading northwest, so take it Yeezy. A compass won't be needed. Do not rush me. When I arrive is when I'll be there. No matter when I get there, I'm always right on time. I'm the underdog riding a dark horse, a one-man army, your knight in not-so-shining armor. Risen from the ashes, two-faced with a poker face, I have returned. Judgment Day is right around the corner. I dread what may happen if you do not heed my warning. All-you-can-eat buffet, I'll roast you, cut your ass, then slice your cheeks unarmed. Yes, your salad's been tossed. This is a feast to be eaten on a footstool with a spiked drink called Ganondorf. Ring the dinner bell, I'm drooling. Bang the gavel, court is adjourned. This is the last call. I'll have Helen Keller weighing her options through her fingertips. No scales needed. Justice will prevail. Lady Liberty will fall. I bet Keith Ledger wouldn't mock my words. Born ready. No ultimatum. Jackie Chan, who am I? Jet Li is not the one. You've bumped into the protagonist in real life. Built-in plot armor. No CGI stunt doubles or body doubles. Bounty on my head, target on my back. While you play Dungeons and Dragons, I slay demons. Tony Jaa will be seeking my protection. Tom Cruise would have found this mission impossible. Denzel, extinguished, then tossed into the lake of fire. Training day is now over. It's time for the real deal. Statham, out of gas, pulled over, crankshaft broken, no sequel. And I leave you with that. I will post the lyrics. It's already posted on my Instagram. I will post links and videos and pictures for all the stuff that's been going on in my life throughout the years, or throughout the last few months at least. Thank you for listening. I pray that this video finds who it needs to find. Thank you. Bye.